Good morning, everyone. Okay, so today is our first day of remote learning, and I put up the remote schedule with part of your attendance page right here because I wanted to make sure you had the schedule so you would know when to meet with your teachers during the day. But the daily check-in, you're still going to click this area here, and you'll have your daily check-in form for attendance purposes. I didn't change anything here, so when we do our Google Meets, you'll click the Google Meet button. But we'll go down to this week's folder. And here's today. Today's Monday, November 30th. It's an A day. And we won't be able to do a Google Meet today because I'm having some issues with my computer. Hopefully they'll be fixed tomorrow so we can meet tomorrow. But you'll still fill out the daily attendance, like I said, and you have your bell ringer. And then you're going to start. We didn't quite get to finish our learned behavior unit. It's not a test. It's going to be equivalent to a test, but it's a learning behavior or conditioning assessment. I am going to give you 2 periods to complete it, so it will be due ultimately on Wednesday. But tomorrow when we meet for our Google Meet, I'm going to go through each of your assignments to see where you're at and if you have any questions on them. So here's our schedule in here today. So you've got your bell ringer, and this bell ringer is having you go check your grades in PowerSchool again. The conditioning assignment, let's open this up. So it's a mini project in place of a test to assess your level of understanding of learned behaviors. You are going to have 2 class periods, and I do strongly encourage you to go back and watch any videos that we've had on these topics. Read your notes, especially on the classical and operant conditioning. And then you'll open this with Cami and submit it with the turn-in button. And here I put the due date is on Wednesday. I've already got it open. This is what it looks like. So it says you'll be identifying examples of learning through conditioning that have happened in your life. So this is personal to you, okay? You will need to identify and explain one behavior that you learned through classical conditioning. And then you're going to identify 4 behaviors that you learned through operant conditioning. And then you can get bonus points. You could choose to conduct your own classical conditioning experiment. And all of your behaviors, both the classical and the operant, need to be original. You can't use any of the examples that I gave you in class. And if you do choose to use those or modify them a little bit, you're going to lose points. I want them to be completely original to your life situations, okay? So the requirements, you're going to need to complete the last page of the lab by following these directions. I'll quickly show you the last page. It's broken up into the different requirements and with the bonus, okay? You'll be filling that out as you're completing this assignment. Okay, so it says identify a behavior you learned through classical conditioning, and you have to label the unconditioned stimulus, the unconditioned response, the conditioned stimulus, and the conditioned response. And remember, the unconditioned response and the conditioned response have to be involuntary behaviors. Those are things that are innate within us. It's not something you've learned. You cannot use taste or food aversion. So if you ate something really awful early in your childhood and now you can't eat it again, you cannot use an example like that, okay? Then the second requirement, you're going to identify behaviors that you learned through operant conditioning for each of the 4 types of operant conditioning. So you have to figure something out for positive punishment, negative punishment, positive reinforcement, and negative reinforcement. And make sure you explain them in detail, okay? You have to explain how the learning process took place to prove that you labeled the type of operant conditioning correctly. And if you don't do that, you're obviously going to lose points. And there are several videos video clips and stuff that we used in class, so you should really go back and look at those to help you. And then bonus, you can get 10 extra points if you do your own classical conditioning experiment and complete the following. And you have to have all of these correct in order to get those 10 points. You won't just get partial extra credit. So you need to make sure you explain your experiment. label each of those responses and stimuli. And then you do have to videotape it. And then you can post the link for me on this document, okay? Here's your rubric. You want to aim for all fours, okay? The classical conditioning, you want to make sure you have one example of a learned or a behavior that was learned through classical conditioning. No errors in identifying all four of those qualities. And then in your operant conditioning requirement, you want to have 4 examples of behaviors learned through operant conditioning, and they're included and they're identified correctly for each of the 4. And then an example, this is just the general requirements, an example of classical conditioning other than taste aversion, and 4 different types of operant conditioning are included other than the examples used in class. So that's what you want to aim for. I did give you some examples, again, just so that you can have a little bit of a guide of what I'm looking for and how you're going to be identifying everything, all right? And then, so this is where you're going to be putting all of your information. So because we're using Cami, you're going to use your text button. You can change the size of your font, and you can change the color of your font too if you want, but you'll click in and, type in your answers. And then, describing your situation for the classical conditioning, make sure you tell me, a general overview, and then you identify each aspect of that. Your operant conditioning, I have a spot for each of the types of operant conditioning. And then you have your spot for your bonus. So that's the gist of your assignment. I'm not giving you an exit ticket today or tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about filling out the exit ticket after you're done today. So email me if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.